I will quote from the recollections of one person who was under Dirlewanger's command. In 2002, the German television channel ZDF made a documentary called Matthias Schenk's letzte Reise nach Polen, Matthias Schenk's last journey to Poland. It was directed by Dietrich Schubert. In 1944, Matthias Schenk was an 18-year-old Belgian who served as an assault engineer in the Wehrmacht during the suppression of the Warsaw Uprising. He came from part of Belgium that had been part of Germany prior to World War I, and whereas parts of his family were in the resistance, he had been conscripted. In Warsaw, he had the bad luck to be assigned to SS-Sturmbrigade Dirlewanger. His unit had arrived in Warsaw on the 1st of August 1944. Entering the city, it was cut off and a small group of them were surrounded. It was Dirlewanger who broke through to them. Matthias Schenk described it thus. Then an SS unit arrived. They looked strange. They had no ranks on their uniforms and reeked of vodka. They attacked instantly, screaming, "Hurrah!" and were dying by dozens. Their commander, dressed in a black leather coat, was raging in the back, pushing his men to attack. A tank arrived. We rushed with the SS troopers behind it. A few meters from the buildings the tank was hit. It exploded and a soldier's hat flew high up. We ran away again. The second tank was hesitating. We were covering the front as the SS men were rushing civilians out of their homes and positioning them around the tank, forcing some of them to sit on the armour. For the first time in my life I saw such a thing. They were hurrying a Polish woman in a long coat. She was holding a little girl in her arms. People crowded onto the tank were helping her to climb up. Someone took the girl. When he was handing her back to the mother, the tank started moving forward. The child fell down under the tracks and got crushed. The woman was screaming in terror. One of the SS men frowned and shot the woman in the head. They continued driving. Those who tried to escape were killed by the SS men. The attack was successful. The Poles were retreating. We chased them. Behind us, civilians were getting out of the cellars with their arms up. They were screaming, "Nicht Partisan!" I didn't see what was happening because we were exchanging fire with the Poles, but I heard as the SS commander in the leather coat was shouting to his men to kill everyone, including women and children. Later Schenk learned that the SS man in the black coat was Oskar Dirlewanger. Then in the cellars of Warsaw we were calling him the Butcher, silently, because the way to the grave in his unit was short. He had a habit of hanging people every Thursday. Poles are his own people, for absolutely nothing. Very often he himself kicked the chairs from under the victims' feet. After a few days of fighting we were assigned to Dirlewanger. 3 assault engineers for each SS platoon. Our job was to make way for the SS men, blow up all obstacles and doors. We were jumping into houses and chasing out people. We were under Dirlewanger's command. Always in the front. Run, place the explosive and after detonation jump into the building. We were followed by Dirlewanger's horde. They looked like bums. Dirty and shredded uniforms. Not all of them had weapons. They took them from the dead. Every morning they got vodka. We, the assault engineers, did too. We were drinking on an empty stomach. Before an attack, one doesn't eat. If you got shot in an empty stomach, you might survive. If you are shot in a full stomach, you die in pain. Dirlewanger walked in the rear, sometimes rode in a tank, always under good cover. He rushed his men forward. Those who lagged behind were shot by him in the back. I was setting explosives under big doors somewhere in the old town. From inside we heard, "Nicht schießen! Nicht schießen!" Don't shoot. The doors opened and a nurse appeared with a tiny white flag. We went inside with fixed bayonets. A huge hall with beds and mattresses on the floor. Wounded were everywhere. Besides Poles, there were also wounded Germans. The Germans begged the SS men not to kill the Poles. A Polish officer, a doctor and 15 Polish Red Cross nurses surrendered the military hospital to us. Dirlewanger's men were following us. The SS men killed all the wounded. They were breaking their heads with rifle butts. The wounded Germans were screaming and crying in despair. After that, Dirlewanger's men ran after the nurses. They ripped their clothes off. We heard women screaming. In the evening on Adolf Hitler Square, which is Platz Pilsudskiego, There was a roar as loud as during a boxing match. Soldiers of all units, Wehrmacht, SS, Kaminsky's Cossacks, the Russian Liberation Army, boys from the Hitlerjugend, whistles, exhortations. Dirlewanger stood about with his men and laughed. The nurses from the hospital were rushed through the square, naked, with hands on their heads. Blood ran down their legs. The doctor was dragged behind them with a noose on his neck. He wore a rag, red maybe from blood, and a thorn crown on the top of his head. All were led to the gallows where a few bodies were hanging already. When they were hanging one of the nurses, Dirlewanger kicked the brick she was standing on. I couldn't watch it anymore. We ran to our quarters, but before we reached them we saw Kaminsky's Cossacks rushing with civilians. We called those Cossacks the Hiwis, from Hilfswillinge, volunteers, willing to help. Next to them a Polish pregnant woman fell down. One of the Hiwis turned back and whipped her. She tried to escape on her knees, but they killed her by trampling her with horses. We entered a school. Children were standing in the hall and on the stairs, lots of children, all with their small hands up. We looked at them for a few moments until Dirlewanger ran in. He ordered them all to be killed. They shot them, and when they were walking over their bodies and breaking their little heads with rifle butts, blood streamed down the stairs. There's a memorial plaque in that place stating 350 children were killed. I think there were many more, maybe 500. Every time when we stormed the cellars and we found women inside, Dirlewanger's men raped them. Many times a group raped the same woman, quickly, still holding weapons in their hands. Then, after one of the fights, I was standing shaking by the wall and couldn't calm my nerves. Dirlewanger's men burst in. One of them took a woman. She was pretty, she wasn't screaming. Then he raped her, pushing her head strongly against the table, holding a bayonet in the other hand. First he cut open her blouse, then one cut from stomach to throat. Blood gushed. Do you know how fast blood congeals in August? I also remember a small child in Dirlewanger's hands. He took it from a woman who was standing in the crowd in the street. He lifted the child high and threw it into the fire. Then he shot the mother. We stormed a building. I ran through a field. A wounded soldier lay on the ground. I gave him some water from my canteen, then ran forward to blow up some doors. The SS moved behind us. When I ran back, Dirlewanger stopped me. He pointed to the wounded soldier. You gave water to this pig? Only then did I notice that, although wearing a German uniform, the wounded man had a dirty white-red armband. Shoot him! Dirlewanger handed me a pistol. I stood motionless, sick at all that. Dirlewanger was so furious that I couldn't understand what he was shouting. The Pole looked at me. I'll never forget his eyes. In Warsaw I learned to recognise that a wounded person would survive for 10 minutes or maybe a couple of hours. When one sees so many people dying, you just know how long they'll live. One of Dirlewanger's SS men grabbed the gun from me and shot the Pole. Then, when some Wehrmacht soldiers appeared, he began to threaten me with a court-martial. One infantry officer started a violent discussion with him, and I ran away. The last stronghold of the uprising surrendered. Some high-ranking officer came with a white flag. We led him to our battalion commander. I saw there our Major Wollenberg, Dirlewanger and other commanders. After a couple of hours the Poles arrived, with a vast number of people following them. All the wounded were placed in a huge warehouse of a vinegar factory. We were ordered to leave. From the outside we heard screams and shots. I know what happened there.